Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Amar. So in previous lecture we have defined different mathematical expressions that were linked with damped free vibrations systems. So in these cases we have defined different mathematical models that were about underdamped free vibration case, critical damped free vibration case, and overdamped free vibration case. We have derived expression for logarithmic decrement. For the free vibration case, we have discussed how to find out the value of logarithmic decrement and damping ratio from the free vibration signals. In addition, we have also discussed if we have been provided with the amplitude and damping ratio for some of the cycles, then we can easily find out the decaying amplitude of the unknown cycles. So in damped free vibration, we people have, for example, in this damped free vibration model, that is the real suspension of car, we have two kind of masses. One is with sprung mass and other is unsprung mass. Sprung mass include mass of whole body of the car, in which we have IC engine and body of the car, and unsprung mass includes the below suspension weight on which the whole weight of sprung mass lies on. So sprung mass is denoted with MS and unsprung mass is denoted with MUS. In case of sprung mass, we have damping element here and stiffness element K here. In the same way, we have damping and stiffness element for the car tire as well. But normally damping of the tire is too much small, so we only consider the stiffness element of the tire. So if we will develop block diagram of the rear suspension of the car, then we will first of all draw a sprung mass. This sprung mass will include the mass of the body of the car and IC engine. So this is the whole mass of the car excluding suspension system. Okay, and these are the suspension system stiffness and damping parameters, and finally these are the supports, and this is the tire and wheel. So for the sprung mass, stiffness and damping element is represented as Ks and Cs, while for unsprung mass, stiffness element is represented as K of T. And if this system of sprung mass is displaced from the initial position y of s, then unsprung mass will also move with different amplitude depending upon the situation. So these were the derived expressions we have already discussed in the class. In the previous classes, one of the expression that was derived for the underdamped free vibration case was that x of t is equal to e exponential with minus zeta omega nt, a exponential of iota 1 minus zeta square into square root of omega nt plus b into exponential of minus iota square root of 1 minus zeta square and omega nt. So this was the final expression that was derived for the underdamped case, and in this process we have a and b as arbitrary constants that can be easily find out from the initial conditions. This is the s of t is the response function, this is the decaying exponential function, and these are the corresponding roots. Okay, so with given initial conditions, for example, if we will consider initial displacement and velocity as 0, then we can find out the value of a and b, and putting value of a and b, we will have the following expression. This is the final expression with which we can easily find out the response of the Anally free vibrating system. But before applying this expression, we must be carefully agreed with that the system is underdamped. This expression is only valid if system is underdamped. If system is not underdamped, then we cannot apply this expression. So this is your velocity, this is damping ratio, this is natural rotation, natural frequency, this is your amplitude, and all of these parameters are known, and then we will find out the simple harmonic response of the vibrating system, that will be for the underdamped vibration case. Now if system is overdamped, then roots will be replaced with this, and finally we have this expression as written below: a e exponential with minus zeta plus zeta square minus 1 into square root of omega n t plus b exponential of minus zeta minus. So main difference is here we have plus sign, here we have roots of minus sign. So remaining expression is same, and again here b are the arbitrary constants, and we can find out the value of the arbitrary constants from the initial boundary conditions. Considering initial displacement and velocity as 0, we can find out the value of a and b, and knowing the value of a and b, we will derive the final expression. So this is the expression for the overdamped vibration case, and this is the expression for the critically damped vibration case, where and a and b are arbitrary constants, and e minus omega n t is the common term. So after solving with boundary conditions, we have a is equal to this and b is equal to this. So finally we have the below expression. Okay, so this was the expression for logarithmic decrement. Logarithmic decrement is defined as the natural log of two successive amplitudes of a harmonic decaying function. In addition, this logarithmic decrement can also be equal to 2 pi zeta over 1 minus zeta square root, and for this is for the nonlinear case when zeta is greater than 0.3 and when zeta is less than 0.3, then we can consider that logarithmic decrement is equal to approximately is equal to 2 pi zeta, and this was discussed in our case. Now this is the numerical problem that we will be discussing. So our today lecture is linked with the numerical problems. So I have revised the previous theoretical models so that we can easily go through these numerical problems. We will solve different numerical problems that will be interlinked with the mass spring system, car suspension systems, and design of the bridges, in which we have different ponton elements for the support of the bridges, and how to place these ponton elements, what should be ratio of the damping element distance and ponton distance in order to make the bridge critically damped. So we will look for the different examples, and then we will also within the numericals we will also go through the main concepts of moment of inertia. For example, what should be moment of inertia for a rod, or what should be a moment of inertia for a point mass for a rod. So for both cases we will find out the moment of inertia, and this concept will be applicable in the numericals. So first of all we will go with the below numerical. In this numerical we have a 4 kg mass that is attached to a spring of stiffness 400 Newton per meter. So stiffness of the spring element is given, that is 400 Newton per meter. Mass of block is given, that is 4 kg, and a viscous temper of coefficient. So damping provided is viscous damping, and coefficient of damping, that is C, is equal to 16 Newton second per meter, that is provided here. If the mass is displaced 0.5 meter from the equilibrium position, so initial displacement provided is 0.5 meter from the equilibrium position, and when it is released from the rest, determine the following parameters for the underdamped system. So in this problem we have been given with the mass of block, stiffness of a spring, coefficient of damping of a damper. Okay. In addition, we have been provided with the displacement of a mass from the equilibrium position, that is 0.5 meter, and we have been given with that system is underdamped. So if this parameter was not given, for example, if in this numerical problem we do not have information that system is underdamped, overdamped or critical damped, then first of all we need to find out the value of zeta, and if zeta was less than 1 we will consider system is underdamped, greater than 1 we will consider overdamped, and equal to 1 means critical damped. But in this case we have been mentioned that zeta is less than 1, that means system is underdamped. So with the provided information we need to find what is the time dependent response x of t. We need to find the response of the function x of t, resultant amplitude a, phase angle phi, position of mass after it has been oscillated through 3 cycles. Okay, so initial displacement was 0.5 meter, and we are asked for the displacement at third cycle with the above underdamped case. Evaluate the percentage decay in the amplitude after 3 cycles. So we are asked to find out what will be the vibration amplitude in third cycle. So we have to find this amplitude, and this amplitude is already given, that is about 0.5 meter. Okay, so let's solve. We know that time dependent response x of t. How we can find the time dependent response? We know that x of t for underdamped vibration system is equal to exponential of minus zeta omega n t into brackets a sine minus zeta omega n t plus b sine minus zeta omega n t. So this expression was already derived in the underdamped case. We will put that expression, and after writing that mathematical model for the underdamped case where a and b are the unknown arbitrary constants, and we have been provided with the initial conditions. For example, here we can see that initial displacement is 0.5 meter and velocity will be, initial velocity will be 0. So after putting the above boundary conditions, we will have the value of a and b. When we will put back the value of a and b in the main response function, then it will be the response time dependent response function that we can easily plot on the MATLAB with respect to time. And if we will take care for the arbitrary constants and take the resultant value, then it will be its resultant amplitude, and if we will take ratio of these tan inverse ratio of the both amplitudes, we will have the phase angle, and using the concept of logarithmic decrement for the 3 cycles we can find out the vibration amplitude at the third cycle. And here we are asked for the percentage decay in the amplitude after 3 cycles. So in order to determine the percentage decay, what is meant by percentage decay? For example, it means what is the percentage of the vibration that have been decayed throughout the 3 cycles. So first of all we will put the formula. For example, initial vibration minus final vibration divided by initial vibration multiplied by 100. So this will give us percentage decay. So it is the main formula that we have been using from several years. So let's solve it. So here we can see this is the mass spring damping element. Mass of the body is 4 kg, spring element stiffness is equal to 400 Newton per meter, and coefficient of damping C is equal to 16 Newton seconds per meter. This is the provided information. Initial conditions are also given. For example, initial displacement is 0.5 meter and initial velocity is 0. Okay, so these are the provided conditions. What is another provided condition? For example, system is underdamped. So in order to confirm that system is underdamped or not, we can also find here the value of zeta. So how we can find the value of zeta? We know that zeta is equal to C over Cc. So C, for example, damping coefficient is given, and we need to find Cc. What is Cc? Critical damping coefficient, that is equal to 2m omega n. So we have been given with the mass, and we need to find the omega n first. So how we can find the omega n? We know that omega n is equal to square root of k over m. So for example, look here, omega n is equal to square root of k over m. Value of k is given, mass is given. So putting the value, we have omega n is equal to 10 radians per second. So omega n is known, and now we can easily find the value of zeta. So what will be zeta? Zeta is equal to C over Cc. C is given, that is 16 Newton second per meter, and Cc is equal to 2m omega n, where m is given, that is mass of block, and omega n is given here, that is 10 radians per second. So 2 into mass into omega n. So finally we have zeta is equal to 0.2. We can see that here zeta is less than 1. So system is underdamped and it is confirmed now. So for what we need to do next, we will put the general solution of the system. For example, x of t is equal to e exponential with minus zeta omega n t into brackets c1 sin square root of 1 minus zeta square omega n t plus c2 cos square root of 1 minus zeta square omega n t. So this is the expression of general solution that was derived for the damped mass spring system for the underdamped case. Okay, so we know that omega n is known, zeta is known, and this is time dependent response. What are the unknown coefficients? That are C1 and C2. So C1 and C2 are arbitrary constants, and we can find out the value of arbitrary values by using the initial conditions. So what are the initial conditions? Initial displacement is equal to 0.5 meter and initial velocity is equal to 0. So that means, first of all, we will put the displacement condition in this main equation of general solution. When we will put it, we will have the value of C2 coefficient, that is equal to 0.5 meter. Okay, now we need to find the another arbitrary constant, that is C1. So how we can find C1? Because we have another boundary condition with velocity. So for putting the value of velocity, we need to derivate this expression of general solution one time. So taking general solution of this derivative of one time derivative of this general solution, and after taking the derivative, we will put this boundary condition, and then we will have the value of C1. So for example, here we can see this is the derivative of the general solution, and we can see e minus zeta omega n t, and this is the derivative of internal expression first, and then we have the derivative of the external parameter, and internal parameter will be same. You people know how to take the derivative of the different numerical functions. So this is the boundary condition for the velocity. Putting the boundary condition, and we already have derived value of C2, that is equal to 0.5 meter. So our C1 value will equal to 0.102 meter. So putting the value, now we have derived C1, that is equal to 0.102 meter, and C2 is equal to 0.5 meter. Putting the value of the arbitrary constants in the main general solution x of t, so that solution will be now the main general solution, and for the resultant value we can take square of these arbitrary constants with square root. For example, C1 square plus C2 square into square root, that will be 0.5103 meter. This is the resultant value. For example, in question we were asked for what is the resultant amplitude A. So resultant amplitude A is equal to square root of square of A plus square of B. Okay, and what was the another condition? Time dependent response S of t. We have derived the time dependent response S of t knowing the value of the arbitrary constants. Now the unknown coefficient that is only left with is only time. When we will plot this function on the MATLAB, then we have to provide the time domain either with linspace or increment function, and we can get the response of this mass spring system according to given parameters of mass, stiffness element, damping coefficient, and so on. Okay, so this is the time dependent response. We have find out the resultant amplitude. Now what is unknown? Phase angle is unknown. How we can find the phase angle for this system? Taking tan inverse of the ratio of the both the arbitrary constants. For example, phi is equal to tan inverse of C1 over C2, and this is equal to 11.53 degree. So this is your phase angle. Phase angle is 11.53 degree. What is the fourth question? It is about position of the mass after it has oscillated through 3 cycles from the point of release. So initial amplitude was 0.5 meter, and after 3 cycle we need to find what will be the amplitude of third cycle. So we people know that number of cycles is equal to 3, initial amplitude is equal to 0.5. we need to find, for example, if we will represent initial amplitude with x1, then we need to find x3. Okay, so we people know the value of zeta. From zeta we can find out the value of logarithmic decrement, and from the logarithmic decrement we know that logarithmic decrement is equal to natural log of 1 over n, that means 1 over number of cycles into natural log of 2 successive amplitudes, that means natural log of 1 over n into natural log of x1 over x3. So we people know x1, we people know logarithmic decrement, we can find the value of x3. So let's check it. Here we can see that I have used this expression for finding out the value of the third cycle. For example, we know that natural log of 2 successive amplitude is equal to logarithmic decrement, that is equal to zeta into omega and tau d. So this is also one of the expression that we can use for logarithmic decrement, delta, that is equal to multiplication of damping ratio, natural frequency and damped time period. So what is damped time period? We people know. How we can find the damped time period? It is very simple. First of all, for damped time period we need to find what is the damped natural frequency. We know that omega d is equal to omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square. Damping ratio is known. We will find the value of omega d, and from omega d we people know that time is equal to 2 pi by omega d, and finally we will have the value of tau d. So here you can see that we have, here you can see 2 pi by omega d, that is equal to damped time period, that is 0.64 seconds. So putting the value of zeta, omega and tau d and taking its exponential value, then it will become s naught over s3, and putting the value of s naught we have s3 remaining, and that will be this value. So what is the final expression for the third cycle? So that means initial amplitude was the 0.5 meter, and what is the amplitude of the third cycle when we have the damping ratio of 0.2? So third cycle amplitude is only and only 0.0107 meter. And how we can find the percentage decay? That is the last point of the numerical. For example, evaluate the percentage decay in the third cycle. We know that percentage decay is equal to initial amplitude of vibration minus final amplitude of vibration divided by initial amplitude of vibration multiplied by 100. So initial amplitude of vibration is x naught minus final amplitude of vibration is x3 divided by x naught multiplied by 100. X naught is 0.5 and x3 is 0.001, so 0.011, and here 0.5, and finally we have 98% decay. So what does this mean? That percentage decay is equal to 98%. It means that after the third cycle 98% of the vibration of the suspension system will be decayed out. Okay, and 2% amplitude will be remaining within the system. Okay, so this is the solution of the numerical problem number 1. Okay, now we will go for the next example, that is example number 2. This is our second numerical, that is from the vehicle suspension. Here we can see that this is our sprung mass, and below sprung mass here we have a stiffness element of stiffness K, and here we have a damping coefficient C. Damping coefficient C always depends upon the viscosity of the fluid and diameter of this cylindrical shape body, and as well as it will also depends upon the impact force. So what will happen? For example, this sprung mass or we can say whenever the whole mass of the body m, whenever this body will pass through any of the jump, or whenever there is a excitation force, then what will happen, this whole this there will be if it is passing over a bump, then there will be excitation force from the below, from this surface, and because of the stiffness element of the tire itself, some of the vibration will be damped, and after that remaining vibration will be transferred within this section, and after passing through the this stiffness and damping element, remaining vibration will be transferred to the body of the car. So you people know, whenever shock absorbers of the or we can say that whenever the shocks of the suspension system are not working properly, then we people have as a larger vibrations amplitude and greater excitation forces, and people feel uncomfortable. So how to decide the ratio of stiffness element to mass, or coefficient of damping to mass? So these are all design parameters. For example, how we can check that what should be the ratio of the K over M or C over M. That means ratio of stiffness coefficient to mass or ratio of damping coefficient to mass. If value of stiffness coefficient to mass is 40, for example, then what should be the value of damping coefficient to mass if mass is unknown? Here you can say mass is unknown. Later on, later stages, whenever you will find the value of ratio of C over M, then we can put the arbitrary value of mass. For example, for normal car, we have a sprung mass of ranging from 1000 kg to 1500 kg. So you can easily put 1200 kg as average mass, and putting the value in K over M or C over M, and finally you can get the value of stiffness coefficient and damping coefficient. Okay, not only this, we people know that for the complete suspension system of the vehicle, we have the front and rear suspension. On the front suspension of the car, we have the two spring elements, and on the rear suspension of the car, we have two spring elements that are parallel to each other. So whatever will be the complete stiffness element that is calculated for the whole body, then we can divide the whole stiffness into 4 parts, because springs are connected in parallel. So we will use K by 4 stiffness for each of the spring element, and same for the damping coefficient. Okay, so for example, here in this numerical problem, we have been given with a portion of an automobile suspension system consists of an elastic spring and a viscous damper. This is your elastic spring of K and damping coefficient C. Within this damper, we have a viscous fluid that will offer a shear force against the excitation force, and what will happen, there will be a dissipation of energy between shear layers, and finally the excessive vibrations will be damped. If the spring is chosen such that K over M is equal to 40, that means ratio of stiffness element to the mass of the body is 40, determine the allowable range of the ratio of C over M. If K over M is equal to 40, then we have to determine the ratio of the damping coefficient to mass, so that any oscillation that occur will decay by factor of 95% within one cycle only. So here we can see that we people have K over M is equal to 40. We need to find the C over M ratio in such a way that total vibration amplitude of the body that is at initial stage should be damped for the 95% value within one cycle. So what does this mean? In other words, this means that if initial amplitude of body is 100%, then after one cycle, final amplitude of body should be 100% minus 95, that will be only 5%. So remaining amplitude will be only 5%. So that means after one cycle, amplitude that is left with is only 5% value. So what will happen? For example, if initial amplitude is x0 and final amplitude is x1, and we have been given with that the ratio of C over M should be such that final amplitude should be decayed for 95% and only 5% should be left. So we people know that how we can determine the ratio of the both successive amplitudes. Here we people know initial amplitude is 1 and we people know what we want x1. We people want x1 in such a way that it should be only left with, for example, that is 0.95 1 minus 0.95. This is our final amplitude. So that what we want. So how we can find the ratio? For example, we can find the ratio as final amplitude divided by initial amplitude. Okay, final amplitude divided by initial amplitude. So what is your final amplitude here? Final amplitude is only 0.05. Okay, final amplitude is only 5%, that means 0.05. What is initial amplitude? That is 1. Okay, so from this we people can say this will be the ratio of the amplitudes that will be left over with. Now let's go for the solution of the problem. Here you can see that suppose initial amplitude is x naught and final amplitude that is supposed is 5% of initial amplitude. So x1 is equal to, or we can say x1 over x naught is equal to 0.05. So this is the same thing I have derived over here. Okay, so ratio of final amplitude to initial amplitude should be only 0.05. Okay, so what we have to find? We have to find out the value of the ratio of C over M in such a way that final amplitude is decayed for 95% of the initial value. So what is your thinking? How we can go with the with this numerical? We people know that we have been given the ratio of stiffness coefficient to mass. We have been given the ratio of successive amplitudes. This is the only given information. And what is unknown? We have to find the value of damping coefficient to mass. So first of all, we people know that before solving any problem, we need to check that either system is under damp, over damp or critical damp. So we people know that damping ratio is equal to ratio of damping coefficient to critical damping coefficient. That means zeta is equal to C over CC. Here we can see zeta is unknown, C is also unknown, and what is CC? CC is equal to 2m into omega n. So this is the term that we can say that mass of the body was m, and omega n again we can derive somewhat. So first of all we will find the value of zeta. How we can find the value of zeta? We can find the value of zeta from the logarithmic decrement method. According to this method, natural log of two successive amplitude is equal to logarithmic decrement, and then from the logarithmic decrement we can find the value of zeta. So what was the formula? Taking natural log of two successive amplitude, that means we need to find s naught over x1. What is given? Given is x1 over s naught, that is 0.05. Okay, while in case of logarithmic decrement we should have the successive amplitude, that means previous amplitude, ratio of previous amplitude to the next amplitude. So this is the previous amplitude, this is the next amplitude when we will inverse for all, and finally we have s naught over s1 is equal to 1 divided by 0.05, that is equal to 20. So ratio of initial amplitude to final amplitude is 20. So taking its natural log, we have logarithm decrement is equal to 2.95, and this is the expression for zeta. Zeta is equal to logarithmic decrement divided by square root of 4 pi square plus logarithmic decrement square. We know logarithmic decrement square value. Finally we have the damping ratio, that is equal to 0.43, and it is the underdamped case. Now we people know that zeta value is known, and we people know zeta is equal to c over cc. We need to find the c value, and cc is also, we people know that cc is equal to 2m omega n, 2m omega n. Now we people know that from the given expression we people have to find the ratio of c over m. We people have to find the ratio of c over m. And what is we left with? We are left with 2 into omega n into zeta. So multiplying these terms on the left hand side, we have 2 multiplied by omega n multiplied by zeta, that is equal to c over m. Okay, so zeta is known, that is equal to 0.43, and 2 is also known, and we have to find omega n. What is omega n? Omega n is the square root of k over m. Also we have been provided the ratio of k over m. So what was ratio of k over m in numerical problem? It was about 40. So taking its square root, or taking the square root of 40, here we have taken somewhere. However, what is the value? We will multiply this term here, and then we will have the final ratio of damping coefficient to the mass, that is equal to 5.44. And what will be the unit? We people know that unit of damping coefficient is Newton second per meter, and unit of mass is kg, and finally we have this unit left over, that is per second. Okay, and now what we need to know? We need to know that k over m was 40 and corresponding c over m is 5.44. So what does this mean? If we will take average value of mass of car as 1200 kg, that is the average weight of every car, sorry, not every car, for the Suzuki Maran or Bulan, you can say. Okay, so multiply by what you will do, 1200 multiply by what was stiffness value, 40. So that means if stiffness coefficient value is 48 kilonewton per meter, if stiffness coefficient value is 48 kilonewton per meter, then corresponding value of damping coefficient will be 6528. Okay, so this is how we can determine the value of damping coefficient and stiffness element with mathematical models that we have developed before. So this is the most useful expression that is used throughout for the design of the suspension system. Also in the advanced modeling, sometime we need to model the value of damping coefficient for the Coulomb damping. So we need to find out the equivalent damping coefficient first, and equivalent damping coefficient for the Coulomb damping or friction damping depends upon the diameter of the cylinder and viscosity of the fluid and diameter of the pores that are made on the piston, and what is the excitation force. So all of these parameters are dependent, and they are very helpful for decision of the value of stiffness coefficient, damping coefficient for the Coulomb damping. And this is all about viscous damping only. But keep in your mind, mostly viscous damping is always more than structural or frictional damping. So the major portion is for viscous damping. So we have designed here the suspension system based on the viscous damping only. In advanced classes, you people will study the other types of dampings. Okay. In this numerical problem, before coming to the main numerical problem that is based for the design of the bridge elements based on the pontoons, so how to decide the spacing between bridge pontoon elements and damping elements, for example how to make bridges critically damped, under damped or over damped, and what should be the distance between damped element and the pontoon, that is also known as stiffness element or support of the bridge. What should be the relative distance between them? Here we can see we have some common moments of inertia of different shapes. The concept of moment of inertia, one of the most important concept that will be used in the design of the bridges. So most of the students in their exams do not take care of the moment of inertia. For example, normally we use the rod element, and sometimes we attach the point mass at the end of the rod, and we say what should be the moment of inertia, and the whole concept, remaining concept will be the same. So how to decide for all of that? So let's go. We know that moment of inertia, here we can see inertia for the solid cylinder or disk symmetry axis. So for solid cylinder we have mr square divided by 2, this is the inertia. Okay, and if it is not cylindrical body and if it is hoop about symmetry axis, then it will be I is equal to mr square. Okay, now in this case we can see here we have a solid cylinder again, but now axes are shifted. Axis is not in the symmetry axis, but it is central diameter. Okay, in this case what will be the inertia will be 1 by 4 times of mr square plus 1 by 12 times of ml square. Okay, it will depends upon radius of the cylinder as well as the length of cylinder. Okay, and when we were to take inertia about symmetric axis, then it was only depending upon the radius of body, but when we are taking inertia about central dia, now it is depending upon radius as well as length. Now same here we can see, if it is hoop, then about symmetry axis or about diameter axis. Okay, about symmetry axis inertia will be mr square, and about diameter axis it will be mr square by 2. This is for the solid sphere, I is equal to 2 over 5 mr square, and for the this is for the solid body, and this is for the thin spherical shell, and when it is thin spherical shell it will be I is equal to 2 over 3 mr square. And this is about the rod. This is the concept we will be using in our numericals. For rod about central axis we have I is equal to 1 by 12 ml square, and for rod about the end we have I is equal to 1 over 3 ml square. Again I am repeating that for the rod element inertia about center of rod is I is equal to 1 by 12 ml square, where m is the mass of the rod, l is the length of the rod. Okay, but for the rod, if we want to take inertia at the end point, because normally we consider the rod as a bridge, and at the end point we want to find the moment of the bridge or inertia of the bridge. So for that case we take the inertia of the rod element, that is always I is equal to 1 by 3 ml square. Okay, and this was only the inertia of the rod at the end point, that is 1 by 3 ml square. Now what will happen if we will place a point mass at end of the rod, and in this case what will be the moment of the rod? So for such cases let's solve. This is the concept for the moment of inertia of a point mass. So how to take inertia of a point mass? it is very important. How to take inertia of point mass? It is very important concept. If we do not here have a point mass, then what was the inertia of this rod? Inertia of that rod was mr square by 3, where what is r? R is the moment arm, that means the length of the beam, or you can say rod. Okay, but in this case we can say that if we have a point mass at the end of the rod, then from linear quantities two kind of forces are there. So for linear quantities and for the rotational quantities. So there are two types of quantities here, linear as well as angular. If we have a linear case, we have a force, that is Newton force, that is equal to ma. And if it is angular quantity, okay, then we have two kind of quantities here. One is the moment and other is the torque. What is torque? Torque is equal to force into moment arm. Okay, and taking force from the linear concept, we have F is equal to ma, and that is equal to tau is equal to m into a into r. That means mass into acceleration into moment arm. Okay, and what about the angular recession? Tau is equal to I alpha, and what is alpha? Alpha is the ratio of tangential acceleration to the moment arm. And finally, putting value of alpha here, we have m into r into 80 over r, and comparing both, what we have here tau is equal to I alpha, and here we have tau is equal to mar. So comparing, we have mar is equal to I alpha, putting alpha is equal to 80 over r, and finally we have I is equal to mr square, where r is the moment arm distance. Here it is r. Okay, so this is the main concept. So what is the main difference between the formula for the rod? If we do not have a point mass, then I is equal to mr square by 3, where r is the moment arm or length from the fixed point to the end point. Okay, and what is about the point mass? And for the same rod, and if we want to find the inertia about the end of the rod or point mass, okay, then for that case we have I is equal to mr square. So this is the main concept that is used in the numerical. So you will see I will be using this thing in the numerical. Please do not confuse it. Okay, I am again repeating, we have two kind of rods. One is without point mass and other is with point mass. If rod is without point mass and fixed at one end, and on the it may be fixed or pivoted, depends upon the application, and on the other end we want to find the inertia, then what we have to take value of inertia, it will be I is equal to ml square by 3. It is when we are taking movement about rod end. Keep in mind where m is the mass of the rod and l is the length of the rod. Okay, you can also say it r, that is moment arm. So this is also r, that means length of the rod. So in this case we have I is equal to mr square when we have a point mass, and here what is r? R is length of the rod. R is length of rod. You can also say I is equal to ml square. Okay, so I is equal to ml square by 3 for simple rod, and I is equal to mr square for the point mass. Keep in your mind, this will be the concept that will be used within the exam. For example, you can see this is one of the numerical in which here it is pivoted, and this rod is connected with the spring element at distance a, and also with the damping element with coefficient c at distance a. Okay, total length of the rod is L, and we are asked to find, set up the differential equation of motion for the system, determine the expression for critical damping coefficient and natural frequency of the damped oscillations. So what is given? We have been given the length of the rod, we have been given stiffness element K, we have been provided with the coefficient of the damping C, and placement of the both elements from the pivoted point A and total length of the rod is L. First of all, we need to derive the equation of motion for this system, and then we have to find what is the damped natural frequency, okay, and then we have to also to find what will be the critical damping coefficient Cc value. We have to find Cc, we have to find omega d, and we have to find equation of motion. So this is the case when we have a point mass case, when we have a point mass at the end of the rod. So we will see where we have to make the change. For example, if we have the same problem and we do not have the mass at the end of the rod, then what will happen? We will use I is equal to m L square by 3. What is L? L is the length of the rod, okay. So we will be using I is equal to ml square by 3 when we do not have this mass. But now in this case we have this mass here. So what we will you put? I is equal to ml square. What is L? L is actually this distance. So I is equal to ml square will be, we will be putting this. Also see, okay, we will solve it later. But you can see this is also one of the numerical problem. Here you can see this is the rod and this is the pontoon element, this is the damping element, this is pivoted point. Again you can see at the end of the bridge we do not have any point mass, and in this case we will be using I is equal to m L square, where what is L? L is the length of beam. Now most of the people confuse when they find the length of the beam. For example, here it is given that length of beam is square root of 3 into L. So we will be putting m L square by 3, that means m, and this is L, that is L into square root 3 whole square divided by 3. So what will happen? 3 will be cancelled with 3 and we will be left with ml square, okay. So we have to put the total length, that is square root of 3 into L, that is the total length of beam, because here we do not have any point mass. So we will be putting I is equal to ml square by 3 here, and in point mass case we will be putting I is equal to ml square. So first of all, let's solve this numerical and then we will go for the bridge design numerical. Please see here we have the numerical where we have a point mass, location of point mass and length of the beam from the point mass, and pivot point is about L, and stiffness element and damping coefficient are attached on the rod at distance A. We are here to find the differential equation of motion and damped natural frequency and critical damping coefficient. So let's start. This is the solution of that problem. Here you can see this is the length of the rod, that is L. This is your point mass. This is your stiffness and damping element located at distance A from the fifth port. Now we can see stiffness element coefficient is K and damping element coefficient is C, okay, and point mass is M, okay, and this rod is displaced from the mean position by providing the angular displacement theta, and as a result what will happen if this rod is displaced from the mean position in clockwise direction, then what will happen, how many type of forces we will be having on this rod. We know that we will be having stiffness force and damping force, so both of them are restoring forces, and third force will be inertial force. Inertial force is always opposite to that of the action of the applied force. So applied angular displacement was in clockwise direction and inertia will be in I theta double dot, that will be in the anti-clockwise direction. So we have three kind of forces applying. Sum of all moments about pivot point is equal to product of moment inertia into its angular acceleration. Because this is angular displacement case, so we will be using sum of all moments. So what we will be using? Why are we using summation m? We are using sum of all moments because we want to find the equation for the we want to find the expression for the equation of motion of the system. Okay, so taking sum of all moments about a pivot point, that is O, it will equal to I theta double dot or I into alpha. Alpha means angular acceleration, I means movement. Okay, now taking sum of all moments about pivot point, we have two kind of forces: restoring force for the spring element and restoring force for the damping element. Okay, so putting the value for the stiffness element force and damping element force and taking the moment. So what is stiffness force? F is equal to kx. Okay, k is stiffness and x is displacement. And what is x here? Because it is angular displacement, x is equal to r into theta. What is r? R is the distance from pivot point to the attached point where the spring is attached, that is A. So what will happen? F is equal to kx, where x is equal to A into theta. Okay, so we have here k A theta. This is your force, this is your spring force. Okay, and taking movement about the pivot point, and this A is because of that force. Okay, that movement, this A is because of the movement, and negative sign is because of the restoring force. Now same case for the damped force. This is your damped force expression. We people know damped force is equal to C x naught, where C is damping coefficient and x naught is actually the velocity, and for the angular case x naught is equal to A into theta naught, we already know. And taking moment about the connection and pivot point, so it is A, so putting A here for the moment. So this is our complete expression for the damping moment, and this is complete expression for the stiffness moment, and negative sign is because of the restoring force. Okay, and sum of all moments is equal to product of inertia and angular acceleration. So transferring these right side terms on the left side, we have I theta double dot plus k a square into theta plus c a square into theta naught is equal to 0. This is your inertial movement, this is your stiffness movement, and this is your damping movement. Okay, now in this case we can see that we have to put the value of I, inertia. In previous slides I have explained the concept of the inertia for the rod. For example, when we have a point mass and when we do not have a point mass at the end of the rod. Here in this case we can see we have a point mass at the end of the rod, and I is equal to ml square for this case, where m is the mass of the rod and L is the total length of the beam. So what is the total length of the beam? That is small l. So we are using I is equal to ml square here. Okay, so putting value of I, that is ml square into theta double dot plus k square into theta plus c square into theta naught, that is equal to 0. Okay, now dividing this expression with theta double dot ml square throughout the equation. Okay, this is the expression we were looking for. This is the same expression for the linear case. For example, s double dot plus cx naught plus kx is equal to 0 for the free vibration case. Now this is for the angular vibration case. Okay, and this whole expression is for the damping element, and this whole expression is for the stiffness element. Okay, do not confuse with it, it is very simple. Now we people already know that what is natural frequency of such expression. All the terms that come with theta or x, all the terms that come with theta in angular case, or all the terms that comes with x in linear case, or actually if we will take its natural frequency, if we will take its square root, then we will have the rotation natural frequency of the system. So taking the square root of k square over ml square, now this will become rotational natural frequency omega n. Okay, so taking out a over l, and we have square root of k over m. Okay, what we are observing here? We are observing that omega n in previous cases was square root of k over m. What is the additional factor? Additional factor is the ratio of a over l. What is a? A is the distance of the connections from the pivot point, and L is the total length of beam. Okay, so this is your natural rotational natural frequency. Okay, now from this rotational natural frequency you can easily find out the damped natural frequency. For example, omega d is equal to omega n 1 minus zeta square, 1 minus zeta square. But before this, please again see the problem. Here we have been written the critical damping coefficient and the natural frequency of the damped oscillations. Okay, so here we are asked that system is critically damped. System is critically damped. Okay, if system is critically damped, then how we can find the roots of the equation? This is your general equation, and we can find out the roots of general equation. As people know that we can suppose the roots of the equation as theta is equal to AEST. It will be written here. Yes. Here we have been taken AEST, that is taken the root, taking one time derivative and taking two time derivative and putting the values here, we will be left with this equation. Okay, now this is your simple quadratic equation where A is equal to 1, B is equal to CA square over ML square, and C is equal to KA square over ML square. Okay, so these are your corresponding roots S1 and S2, that is minus B plus minus B square minus 4AC into square root divided by 2A. Because A is equal to 1, so we have simply divided the whole expression by 2. Okay, so I hope so you all can easily derive this these roots for the expression. Now we people know that for the critical damp case, determinant is always equal to 0. Determinant is always equal to 0. Now determinant of this inside term, for example, CA square over ML square minus 4 into bracket K square ML square is equal to 0, and take in terms on right, and this expression is solved for the critical damp case. We will replace C with CC, and finally solving the expression we will have the value of CC as CC is equal to 2L over A into square root of Km. K is stiffness of the spring, M is the mass of the rod. Taking the square root, already they are given, and we already know the value of L and A, and if we will put the value of L and A, then we will have the value of CC, that is critical damping coefficient. Now we have calculated the critical damping coefficient. This was one of our requirement. For example, first requirement was find the differential equation of motion. We have find it. Okay, find the critical damping coefficient. We have find the critical damping coefficient from the quadratic equation. Okay, now we have to find the natural frequency of the damped oscillations. Okay, now how we can find the natural frequency of damped oscillations? We know that damping ratio is equal to ratio of C over Cc. We already know the value of critical damping coefficient, that is equal to this. So we people have zeta is equal to C over in this expression. So this is when we are required the value of zeta. So what is advantage of this expression? Advantage of this expression is that sometimes we need to know the value of zeta. So now in this case we have derived the expression for zeta as ratio of this to this. That means if we know the value of damping coefficient that is provided on the damper, and what is the distance of the damping element from the pivot point, and what is the total length of the beam, and what is the stiffness coefficient, what is the mass of the rod. If we know all of these things, then we can easily find the value of zeta, and this value of zeta is required for finding out the value of the rotational damped frequency. That means omega d is equal to omega n 1 minus zeta square. So what will happen in this case? We can see omega n is known. We have find it here. Omega n is equal to this A over L into square root of K over M. So putting value here, and we have been finding the value of zeta, that is found here. So putting value of zeta here, taking square, rearranging the expression, and this is our final expression for the damped natural frequency. This is the rotational natural frequency, and if we want to find a damped actual natural frequency, then we have to take f is equal to 1 over 2 pi, sorry, omega is equal to 2 pi f and f is equal to 1 over 2 pi into omega d. Okay, so multiply this whole expression with 1 by 2 pi, and then you will have the damped natural frequency. Okay, some of the students will be asking a question, sir, why we have taken damped natural frequency formula as omega d is equal to omega n 1 minus zeta square. Please keep in your mind, all the bridges are always designed in such a way that they are critically damped, and we do not want any oscillation from the designed system. Okay, so we have already found the value of the critical damping coefficient here, that was Cc is equal to this. But in the question we were asked about find the natural frequency of the damped oscillations. Okay, here what it is written, damped oscillation. Okay, critical damping coefficient was obtained for the expression when it is critically damped. When this bridge is critically damped, then what will happen? You people know there will be no oscillations. Okay, and we have find out the value of Cc. But in B part, we are asked to find out the natural frequency for the expression when system is damped oscillating. That means system is damped, but oscillations are here, and there is only one case in damped vibration case where we have oscillations, that is under damped case. So that's why we are using formula omega d is equal to omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square, and putting value of zeta that is derived from the critical damping coefficient. Okay, so this was your expression for the damped natural frequency. This is your expression for the critical damping coefficient, and these are your required roots, and this is your required equation of motion for this system. Keep in your mind, this was a rod that have a pointed mass, and we are also having the stiffness and damping element connected on the rod, and actual beams that are designed also have these kind of elements on its structure. In coming numerical, I will show you people how these bridges are designed according to this concept of damped rod. Okay, thank you. So this was the numerical problem that was about modeling the expression for this beam system that was actually modeled for the one of the bridge element. Now in coming example, we will design the expression for the pontoon bridges. Pontoon bridges are one of the most useful bridges that are designed over the sea area, and number of supports are provided within the beam. That stiffness elements are dipped within the sea water in such a way that they have a specific distance from each other, and damped elements are always attached with such kind of beams and bridges, so that they are designed in such a way depending upon the requirement. Either we want to make them under damp, over damp, or critical damp. Normally these kind of bridges are always critically damped or over damped, but they are always critically damped. Okay, they are not under damped because we do not want any kind of oscillation on the beam whenever there is a excitation load on the passing over the bridge. So if it is under damped design, then what will happen? Whenever there will be a loading condition on the bridge, then it will continue to vibrate or continue to oscillate until all the amplitude is or all the energy is dissipated. So normally we keep it critically damped so that energy is easily dissipated, and it is also meeting the main standards of the design parameters to make the design more reliable. So in coming example, inshallah, we will be going with such kind of numerical. Please remain in touch. Thank you. Now we are going to understand the concept of pontoon bridge. So let's start. You can see here You can see here this is the bridge over the water flow, and these are actually the pontoon sports that are provided below the bridge. So there is a proper distance between these pontoons. They have a proper shape. For example, what is the viscosity of the flow that is moving across the surface area, what is the shape of the pontoon. So all of these parameters are effective. So how to decide what should be the distance between each pontoon, and if there are also dampers which are installed at the bridges, so what should be the distance between each pontoon and a damper in such a way that it should not oscillate upon the excitation. For example, it should be critically damped. So these are all design problems, and they are very effective in understanding the dynamics. You can see there is a proper spacing in between each sport, and they are properly fixed on the surface. In some cases, we have a pontoons that are only placed on the surface of water.
All of the most famous bridges in the world are anchored to the earth. The new SR 520 floating bridge is dramatically different, both from a construction standpoint as well as the way it was engineered to carry up to 150,000 cars a day.
So now we've got cars, we've got HOVs, which are high occupancy vehicles, we've got ride shares and buses. We also wanted to connect people who are riding their bicycles or pedestrians. So that's what this bridge does. It really connects two communities with each other.
It is the largest floating bridge in the world, more than 1.4 miles from end to end. It now has 6 lanes rather than 4, and with an eye to the future, it also will eventually be able to accommodate a light rail. As you might imagine, a project like this was a colossal undertaking, and NECA contractor DBE Electric was thrilled to play a role, especially because of the programs put in place by the Federal Highway Administration to use small and minority-owned businesses on the project. DBE Electric is a certified DBE MBE company, meaning it's a minority business enterprise.
Whether you're owned by women, as in the case of mine, or a minority firm, it really allows that opportunity.
I did on out here, I pretty much had something to do with it.
That were provided by Local 46 out here.
A large fun project.
I feel pride that I had a part of it, and I know it'll be here long.
Now we will solve one of the numerical problem that will be related with this pontoon bridge. It is actually a Kumbh Mela of 2019. This bridge location is in India. You can see number of people are traveling across the bridge, and bridge is coated on the pontoon. They have a proper surface area that lies on the surface of water. So what parameters are effective and how the bridge is properly designed to eliminate the effect of oscillations. You need to understand all the concepts in this
रहने वाले आप पूरे बच्चे से चले आए यहाँ मीरा मालाकार और संडे मालाकार आपका इंतजार कर रहे हैं। साधना मिश्रा, अनुप्रिया, निधि कपूरा प्रयागराज के रहने वाले। साधना मिश्रा, आप अपनी गाड़ी के पास पहुँच जाएं। नीता अग्रवाल, राष्ट्रपति नगर आगरा की रहने वाली। आप भूले बच्चे के भी चले आए यहाँ दिनेश चंद्र शर्मा आपका इंतजार कर रहे हैं।
Now let's solve the numerical. That was a pontoon bridge. You can see this is a pontoon bridge of Kumbh Mela known as floating bridge. It uses a floats to support on a continuous deck for pedestrian and vehicle travel. Thousands of Hindus devotes crossing the pontoon bridges over the Gange. Okay, so this is the numerical problem. A plank. This is a plank. This surface area that looks like a beam is actually plank. It is pivoted on one spot, and on the other end it is free, and below it is supported on the pontoon. This pontoon has a proper surface area, and it has a specific distance from a pivot point. For example, it has a capital L distance from a pivot point, and also this plank is properly damped, and this damper have a specific distance of small l from the pivot point. Total length of this plank is square root of 3 into L. Okay, so a plank that bridges a small segment of a body of a still water is pinned at the one end, so it is pinned at this end. Okay, and so you can see we have a plank that bridges a small segment of a body of still water is pinned at one end and sits on a pontoon, a large hollow cylinder. This is a large hollow cylinder. So we can extract from the given information that the shape of the given pontoon is cylindrical, that is resting on the water surface and provides a floating support to the bridge. Okay, so this pontoon is actually providing a floating support to the bridge, and it is located at a distance L from the pin. It has a distance L from the pin. The plank is of length square root of 3 into L. This is the complete length of the plank. Okay, the cross sectional area of the pontoon is 1 meter square. The cross sectional area of this pontoon is 1 meter square, and total mass of the plank and the pontoon together is 120 kg. Whole mass of this assembly is 120 kg. It is desired to attach a viscous damper. This is your viscous damper. We want to attach. It is desired to attach a viscous damper of coefficient 1200 Newton second per meter at a distance of small l along the plank. Assume that a small angle motion of the plank. This is a small angular displacement that is provided to this plank, and what we have to determine the minimum length ratio, small l into capital L. We have to determine the ratio of distance of damper to pin point to distance of plank to the pin point. Okay, so we have to determine the distance ratio for both of them, so that the system will behave critically damped, and as a result no vibrations in the bridge. So this is the point to note, that what is the requirement. This distance ratio of small l to capital L should be in such a way that this system should be critically damped and it have no oscillations. Okay, now question is that we are provided that this pontoon has a surface area of 1 meter square, but if this pontoon is behaving as a stiffness element, likewise this damper is behaving as a damping element, then what should be stiffness of this plank? That means the stiffness of this plank will be dependent upon its surface area. It will also be dependent upon its length. It should also be dependent upon the viscosity of the flowing fluid across the surface area. So all of these things are dependent. So depending upon all of these dimensional parameters, this is the value of stiffness coefficient that depends upon the density of a fluid into gravitational force, into gravitational and into its cross sectional area. So these are three parameters: density of fluid, gravitation, acceleration that is 9.8, and area that is 1 meter square. Also, what is density of fluid of water? Density of fluid, for example, if the fluid is water, it should be 1000 kilogram per meter cube, and if it is some other fluid like air or anything else, so we can also design it accordingly. Consider the combination of pontoon and water to act like a spring with stiffness this. So it is mentioned here that this pontoon is behaving like a spring element that have a stiffness K, and that stiffness K depends upon density of fluid, gravitational acceleration and cross sectional area. So let's solve this numerical. What is the given information? This pontoon bridge should be critically damped, it should not oscillate. Damper is placed at a small distance L. Pontoon, known as stiffness element, is placed at distance capital L. Total length of the bridge is square root of 3 into L. Cross sectional area of this pontoon is 1 meter square, and coefficient of damping is 1200 Newton second per meter. So these are the required parameters that are given, and now we have to determine the ratio of small l to capital L. So it is very simple. First of all, we have to solve this whole numerical. For example, it was mentioned that we have to give small angular displacement, and when we will give small angular displacement to this bridge, then it will possibly try to vibrate. So vibration behavior of the system can be easily predicted by using the equation of motion. So first of all, we need to derive the equation of motion for this system. For the equation of motion, we need to first understand dynamics of system. For example, this system will generate a movement across a pivot point. So sum of all movement across a pivot point will equal to sum of all the forces that will be acting on the bridge. For example, in this case, we have a restoring force for a stiffness element pontoon, and we also have a restoring force for a damping element. Okay, so we have two restoring forces and one inertial force known as I theta double dot, that is correlated with the mass of the body. Okay, so we will write summation sum of all moments about pivot point is equal to I theta double dot, and then we will write I theta double dot, where theta double dot is angular acceleration, is equal to, then we will take moments of these restoring forces. This restoring force of a damping element into small distance L, and it will be with negative sign, and again another force with negative sign and stiffness force into this moment distance L. Okay, so let's solve this numerical. This is example problem number 3, and it will also be inshallah uploaded on the Google Classroom. All of these lectures are already available, but solution is not available. I will also upload the solution. So here you can see, first modeling the system we have summation m naught is equal to I theta double dot, and I theta double dot is equal to, this is the sum of all moments about pivot point is the product of inertia into the angular acceleration. Okay, this thing is equal to restoring forces sum. So two restoring forces that are represented with the negative sign. This is your stiffness force K into x, and L is your moment distance of the ponton from the pivot point, and this is your damping force, that is Cx naught, and this is the distance of ponton from the pivot point, small l. Here you can see this is written as Cx1. It is actually, x is actually velocity, it should be x naught. So because damping force is dependent upon the velocity of the fluid, so Cx naught. Okay, and L is the distance of the damping element from the pivot point. Why? Because it will, we have to consider it as a moment force. Okay, now we will expand the expression for the angular motion. We know that x is equal to r theta, where r is the moment arm, and here moment arm is already mentioned. We know that x is equal to capital L into theta. Why? Because stiffness element is located at distance capital L. Okay, and we will put this value here, and this is x1 naught. So what is x1? It is actually x is equal to r theta, that is for the damping element. Damping element is located at distance small l from the pivot point. So this x1 naught will equal to r theta naught. So what is r? R is small l. So we will write x1 is equal to small l into theta naught. For example, it is written here, and we will put both values for x is equal to L theta and x naught is equal to L theta naught in this equation for the placement of x1 and x, and finally we will have this equation in terms of angular motion. Now this we have equation of motion in angular coordinates, then we will multiply accordingly, and we will see we have this equation at theta double dot plus CL square into theta naught plus Kp into L square into theta is equal to 0, where Kp is actually stiffness of ponton. Okay, you can put value of the stiffness of ponton, that is equal to rho g a. Okay, rho g a is actually the stiffness of ponton that is mentioned in the numerical, and remaining expression is same, L square theta divided by I naught. Okay, we have divided the term I naught throughout the equation. Again, you people can see that I have already explained the concept of the pointed mass. Here we do not have a point mass, but we have inertia that is located across the end of the rod. So I is equal to ml square, where L is the total length of the beam. So what is total length of the beam? It is actually L into square root 3. Okay, so L into square root 3. And what is the inertia for this for this rod, it is I is equal to ml square divided by 3. So where L is the total length of the this rod, and it is actually L into square root 3, and when we will take its square, it will become L square into 3, and 3 will be cancelled up and below, and we have remaining term known as ml square. So I is equal to m into capital L square. That will be the remaining inertia. So we will see here I is equal to ml square. I have replaced a term of I is equal to ml square. Actual inertia for this rod was, because it is not pointed west but it is simply rod, we have to find inertia at the end of the rod, and it is equal to I is equal to ml square divided by 3. L is the length of beam, given length of beam is square root 3 into L. So we will take its square and it will become ml square total value. Okay, so this is your damping element, and this is your stiffness element that is occurring across theta. Now we people know that square root of this term will be actually the rotational nature frequency. Okay, so you can see omega n is equal to square root of rho g a over m, and it will be in radians per second. So this is your rotational nature frequency. Okay, if this is your rotational nature frequency, what we have to find out? We need to find out what should be the ratio of both the distances if it is critically damped. So if we want to make the system critically damped, we need to first of all convert this general equation of motion with the general solution. So we have to assume the solution for this equation. So first of all, we will assume the simple harmonic motion solution. So we will assume that theta is equal to a e exponential with s into t. So taking one time and two time derivative and putting the value of theta, theta naught, theta double dot, we will be left with the whole term with the s square term. So you can see we have replaced theta t is equal to a e of s t. This one time derivative, this is second time derivative, putting value back, we have final this equation. So this is one term and this is another term that is related with the velocity. So velocity can never be equal to 0, but this expression can equal to 0. Okay, so this term cannot equal to 0 and this term is equal to 0, and it is actually a quadratic equation where a is equal to 1, b is equal to cl square divided by ml square, and c is equal to rho g a divided by m. So keeping in view the coordinates or the solutions of the quadratic equation, we have this form, and finally we have the following applicable roots of the equation of motion. So these are the roots of equation of motion. So if a system is critically damped, then determinant should be equal to 0, then this term will equal to 0. Keeping this term is equal to 0 when it will come to the right side, and now we have in this form of the equation where we have replaced c with cc, that means critical damping coefficient. Okay, so we will solve out, we will take care of all of these terms and we will cancel some of the common terms, and finally we will derive the value for cc. So taking this is your value for cc. Okay, so cc is equal to 2l square divided by small l square into square root of m rho g into a. This is actually the thing, square root of rho g a, that was rho g a, that was actually nothing but a stiffness of Ponton element. Okay, now we have to find out the main relation for both of the elements, and we have to consider that we have assumed all the parameters that were given, and we people know that if bridge is critically damped, then what is zeta? Zeta should equal to 1. So what is zeta? Actually it is the ratio of damping coefficient to critical damping coefficient. If zeta is equal to 1, then c should equal to cc if we want to make this bridge critically damped with no oscillation. So we will keep c is equal to cc, and we will replace the cc with c, that is actually a numerical value provided in the numerical. So C is equal to, keeping C is equal to Cc, replacing the value of Cc, we have these terms, and also we have been provided with the value of mass, value of density G, and area. So putting all of the known terms, we have finally the ratio of small l to capital L as 1.35. So what does this mean? This means that this small l, that is actually associated with the length of the damping element from the pivot point. It should be placed 1.35 times higher or greater length than the length of the stiffness element. So what does this mean? That means that damping element will be kept away from the stiffness element. How many times? 1.35 times. Okay, for example, I am assuming that if this stiffness element that is located from the pivot point known as capital distance L, if this capital L is a unit length, that means if I am locating this stiffness element with a unit length of 1 meter, then according to this expression, I have to place damping element at a distance of 1.35 meter from the pivot point. And if I will keep damping element 1.35 times away from a pivot point as compared to the stiffness element that is only at a unit length from the pivot point, then I can keep this bridge critically damped, and also this bridge will not oscillate. So it will be properly designed. So this was the numerical that was associated with the design of the bridge in such a way that it should not oscillate. I am again repeating, we will provided with the stiffness and damping elements and their proper distances from the pivot points, and we have a rod that is not a pointed mass, and we have a inertia that is known as ml square over 3. So first of all, we have derived the expression for equation of motion, and from the we have derived the equation of motion from the moments about a pivot point, that is defined as the product of moment of inertia into angular acceleration. So we people know sum of all moments about pivot point depends upon the restoring forces. Two restoring forces are here, one with the damping element, other with the stiffness element. So multiplying the known terms and rearranging the terms and dividing the inertia term throughout the equation, the term that will left with the theta is actually a square root term that will known as natural rotational natural frequency. So keeping the above equation and assuming the roots of the equation theta is equal to a e of st, and finding the roots of the equation and converting the equation into a quadratic form, and then finding out the actual roots of the equation and putting back them in the equation, quadratic equation, and then putting back the determinant of the quadratic equation equal to 0 for the critical system, and finding out the value of critical coefficient. And then we have equated critical coefficient with the damping coefficient, both are equal. Why? Because it is critically damped. And then equating all of them and getting the ratio of small l to capital L and putting the value of known terms, we can easily equate the distance of both the restoring elements in such a way that bridge should not oscillate. So this is our last numerical that is related with the damped free vibration. In this numerical we can see that we have a piston of mass 4.53 kg that is traveling in a tube with a velocity of 15.24 meter per second. So this is your piston assembly. Okay, this is your cylindrical assembly in which we have a piston. Mass of piston is 4.53 kg, velocity of the piston is 15.24 meter per second. Okay, and this piston is traveling across a cylindrical surface in such a way that it will collide with the another assembly that have a stiffness K is equal to 350 Newton per centimeter, and the damping coefficient C is equal to 1.75 Newton second per centimeter. So a piston of mass 4.53 kg is traveling in a tube with a velocity of 15.24 meter per second, and it engages a spring and a damper as shown. So what will happen? This piston of mass 4.53 kg and with velocity 15.24 meter per second, it will collide with this assembly of stiffness and damping element, and after collision with this element, this piston assembly will bounce back. Okay, we have to determine the maximum displacement of the piston after engaging with the spring damper system. How many seconds does it take? So we have to find out what will be the maximum displacement. What will be the maximum displacement of this piston assembly after collision with this spring damping assembly, and how much time it will take during the process. Okay, so these are all the given parameters. First of all, we people know that initial condition that is given is that piston velocity is 15.24 meter per second. It is impact velocity of piston. So the initial displacement is 0 for the impact velocity. We have to consider the impact velocity displacement 0. Okay, so considering initial displacement of this mass 0 and impact velocity 15.24 meter per second, and mass of the cylinder piston assembly as 4.53 kg, and we know the value of K and C, and it is given per centimeter. So we need to convert this unit into meter first. So converting centimeter term into meter term, so we will see its conversion, and after the conversion we will check out what should be the maximum displacement in what specific time. So let's solve the numerical. One of the most important thing to be discussed here is that we can see that in this numerical we have the given parameters. First of all, interpret the given data and convert all the units into standard unit, for example SI units. Okay, so determine the initial conditions where we have velocity is equal to 15.24 meter per second and initial acceleration as 0 meter. Velocity is actually impact velocity. Okay, so considering the below example, we need to find the maximum displacement of the piston. So what do you think, how we can find out the maximum displacement of the piston after the collision? Again, that means first of all we need to determine some of the response function of the system. So first of all we will find out the response function of the system, and then we will perform some of the numerical calculations in such a way so that we can find out the maximum acceleration and corresponding time. Okay, so how we can determine the general expression for this case? As you people know that one of the practical example of the system, as you people are seeing here, is the collision of any vehicle with the another body in such a way that it is properly spring and stiffness element. Then how much time it will take to comes to rest, and after what time, and what will be the maximum displacement. Also in piston rod assembly, again same example is there where we have a stiffness and damping elements. So how much time it will take to comes to a maximum distance and in what time. So you can see the collision of train, collision of your vehicles with other vehicles. So actually we need to understand what should be the dynamic of the system. So first of all we need to determine, because we have a spring and damping element, so first of all we need to understand that this spring damping system is under damp, over damp or critical damp. if we will first of all decide that what type of damping is this system provided with, then we can easily go with the response of the system. So for checking out either system is under damp, over damp or critical damp, we need to first of all find out the zeta value. How we can find out the zeta value? Zeta value is the ratio of damping coefficient that is given here C to the critical damping coefficient that is Cc is equal to 2m omega n. What is m? M will be the mass of the block, and what is omega n? Omega n is actually the square root of stiffness element to mass. Again we have been given stiffness element as well and mass as well. So we will find the value of zeta, and from zeta we will decide system is under damp, over damp or critical damp. Now if zeta is less than 1, then we will say system is under damped. Then we will suppose the vibration response of system to be under damped, and S of t is equal to E of minus zeta omega n t into bracket C1 sin minus zeta omega n t plus cos E minus zeta omega n t, and we will enclose the bracket. So this expression will be given in paper as well. For example, for under damp, over damp or critical damp, you need to understand that which expression is for which case. So for example, if we have been provided with the under damp as vibration response, then what we need to find? We need to find the arbitrary constants from the given initial conditions. So from given initial condition, first of all we will put initial displacement is equal to 0, and we will find one of the arbitrary constant, and then we will take its first derivative, and we will put the second boundary condition, that is actually impact velocity is equal to 15.24, and with this we will find the another arbitrary constant, and when we will put back the value of these constants into the vibration response of under damped case, and we will have the time response of the vibrating system. Now this is the time response, that is actually the amplitude response. So now we need to understand at what time this system will have the maximum displacement. So for that purpose we will take derivative of this response. For example, we will take derivative of the amplitude response, we will take that will be the velocity response. Now we will have a velocity response, and from the simple harmonic motion theory we already know that wherever velocity is maximum, displacement is minimum. Okay, so for example, if velocity is maximum, then displacement will be 0, and if displacement is maximum, then velocity will equal to 0. Okay, so using this concept, because we need to find the maximum displacement, then we will put velocity of the response as 0, and putting the velocity response as 0, we will find the corresponding time, and that time will be used in the amplitude response equation to find out the maximum amplitude. Okay, so let's start the solution. For example, here in this solution we can see this is your problem 2.47, mass 4.453 kg given, C value in Newton per centimeter per second given. We will convert it into the multiply with it with 100, it will be converting into Newton second per meter. This is your stiffness element, we will have a 35 kN per meter. Velocity is given, displacement, impact velocity is given, displacement is 0 initial. We need to find x max and t max. Okay, so first of all we will find zeta is equal to C over Cc. We have been given Cc is equal to 2m omega n, omega n is equal to square root of k over m. All of these things are given. This is your Cc critical damping coefficient, that is 796.4 Newton second per meter. Okay, now we have determined the Cc value. C values are already given, that is 175. Taking the ratio, that is 0.22, that means system is under damped. Okay, now we have the amplitude response for the under damped system, that is x of t is equal to E minus zeta omega n t into bracket C1 sin omega dt plus C2 cos omega dt. So what is zeta damping ratio? Omega n is given, time is actually the simple harmonic motion response, C1 C2 unknown, and omega d. What is omega d for underdamped case? Omega d is equal to omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square into square root. So zeta is already known, so we can find out the value of omega d because omega n is also known. So after here we can see omega d is equal to omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square into square root. So this value is equal to omega d, that is equal to 85.7 into radians per second. Okay, now putting the value of all the known constants, we are only left with C1 and C2 constants and time period. We can find C1 and C2 arbitrary constants from the initial conditions, that initial displacement is 0 and initial impact velocity is 15.24 meter per second, and finally we have these two constants. C2 is equal to 0, and taking the derivative and putting second initial condition, we have C1 is equal to 0.18 meter, and putting back value into the amplitude expression, we have this amplitude response. Okay, that is equal to exponential of minus 19.3 into t, 0.18 t into sine 85.7 into t. Now this simple harmonic function is only the function with time domain. If we will put the time domain, then we can find out the specific response of this system on the MATLAB as well. Now we need to find the maximum amplitude. I have already told you people that for the maximum amplitude, first of all we need to derive this expression. So I have taken the derivative of this expression and considering the concept that where the displacement is maximum, velocity is 0. So putting s naught t is equal to 0, we will put s naught t is equal to 0 and solve this whole expression. Okay, solve this whole expression. So here you can see putting velocity is equal to 0 and solving the expression, we have this term is equal to 0 and rearranging the term and taking tan inverse, finally we have time is equal to 0.015 seconds. So this is the maximum time where we have a maximum displacement, that is 0.015 second. Putting that maximum time into this amplitude response, and when we will put this response, we have a maximum displacement as 0.13 meter. That means maximum response of this system will be 0.13 meter amplitude at a time of 0.015 second. Okay, this is the one way to find out the maximum amplitude with the given time. Another way to find out the maximum displacement is that we people have already derived this expression of amplitude response. Okay, and we people know that response will be maximum when this term will equal to 0. Okay, putting sine 85.7 t is equal to 1, and we know that sine inverse of 1 is equal to pi by 2, and solving it we have a time, look here, pi by 2 that is equal to 90 degree, and solving it with time it will be 0.081 second, and putting back the time into the amplitude response, we have the maximum amplitude. So these are two suggested methods. One method is that take derivative of the amplitude response and put velocity as a 0 element. For the maximum displacement you will find the time and put that time into displacement equation to find the maximum displacement. Okay, this is the one way. Another way is to put the sinusoidal function in the maximized way. For example, this function should equal to 1. Putting this function is equal to 1 and taking sine inverse of 1, it will be pi by 2, and then resolving the equation we can get the value of time, and putting the value of time in the main amplitude response equation, you will have the maximum amplitude. So this was the complete session about damped free vibrating systems. Inshallah, in coming lecture we will go with the damped force vibrating systems. We will solve some of the derivations or the analytical models that will be correlated with the damped force vibrating systems, and then we will solve a few numerical problems for rotating unbalance as well. Take care. Thank you very much for your time. Allah Hafiz.